2, 3, 4. All right. We would like to call the meeting to order. And before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, there's some items on the agenda that need to be changed, if we could. On number 5, under new business, appointment of the March Board of Review members. We did that in November, so if you could strike that from your agendas. It's just an appointment of the March Board of Review members. We did that in November. And then number 3, which is a fire department honors, that's going to be postponed. It's going to happen February 18th, so we're going to postpone that. And then on number 13 under new business, contingent upon attorney approval. I should put that in the memo. If that's acceptable to board members? Is that all right? That's okay. Number 3, the fire department honors will be postponed until February 18th.
Because I got something different. I got authorization in negotiations. I don't have the fire thing.
I have it on mine here. Item number 3.
Okay, I was looking under.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
So that's just going to be postponed to February 18th. I'm sorry?
And number 13?
Number three is postponed. Number 5, under new business, we eliminated the word "and appointments of the March Board of Review members."
Okay.
Because we've already done that. And then under number 13, it's contingent upon attorney approval.
Perfect.
Okay. Is that all right with everyone? Does everyone agree it's okay to change it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, to the changes? Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. Was zoned out.
All right, so thank you, everyone. If we would, those who are able, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. Continue to stand for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a consent agenda, which has the minutes of the December 17th, 2024 regular meeting, statements and checks. A motion would be in order.
So moved, Peterson.
Motion Peterson.
Madam Chairperson?
I'm sorry?
Can we pull
Is there a support? Oh, yeah, pull it out, the minutes
Can we
out.
pull out the minutes and also the checks for January 21st?
Sure. Just a minute, so the minutes will be separate. Wait a minute.
Support.
Yeah. We didn't have a minute. We didn't have a motion and support. So the consent agenda, we're going to do the minutes. So the first item on the agenda is, for the consent agenda, is the minutes of the December 17th, 2024 regular meeting. Motion and support.
Is this the time you want me to talk?
Is there a motion and support?
Peterson.
Motion Peters, support Eldridge? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I had some changes, and I met with Debbie Swanson, the clerk, today, and I think we had a pretty good, fruitful meeting from my perspective. Hopefully she feels the same. And one of the things that was clear, plus going through the board policy, is that to add anything to, or to change the minutes, additions or deletions, it appears the only thing in the board rules are that you have to ask for your comments to be made verbatim. I think it was at the time, and I think they changed, there's a proposition to change that later, but I won't speak to that right now. But I guess I wasn't aware with that, and I was just kind of following what we'd always done since I've been on the board since 1988. And when someone wants to have the additions or changes to the meetings, they add those, or, they bring that up. And so I had thought I had done that, and it was interpreted, I think, by the clerk's office that when I said I wanted to amend, and that probably was the wrong word to use. I probably should have said I had an addition or a deletion. They took that as I was making an amendment to the motion to approve the minutes, and that wasn't the case. So anyways, today's minutes say that I had made an amendment to include the streaming stuff, the conversation that went on informally at the end of the December 3rd meeting about live streaming, and also to include the comments that I had made at a public hearing on the budget, which was in November, and then I made the comments on December 3rd, and then also made them at the December 17th meeting. And our minutes today state that an amendment was made and it died for lack of support to add those, and that was not my intention. I've never heard of anyone making an amendment to add their comments or deletions and stuff. So I would like to ask the board to give the right to go back and add those comments that were made at my request, because that's what I meant to do at the December 17th meeting, to have those comments about the live streaming, and also about the budget issues with the supervisor's salary and stuff. And I guess at this point, I'm going to ask that these comments be included verbatim, since that's what the work rules say right now about this issue. And if you recall what I'd said, and we can include this verbatim, was that I had repeated again in December 3rd's meeting and December 17th, and now this will be the third time, the January 20th, this meeting, is that I thought I had asked the board to consider under the budget hearing to make all three elected officials the same pay, and to not have the stipend of, I think it's $5,000 or $6,000 of supervisors role, as a part of, to not have that stipend for a car lease. And I brought that up at different meetings. And the streaming thing, I think, was done at the end of the meeting under, it was either board comments or other comments, where I brought it up, and I had asked the board, or kind of more directed to the chair, the supervisor, like, should I do this as a formal thing? And then I know Supervisor Stumble indicated they really weren't prepared, and that was okay with me. And she had said that we'll put that on the next agenda, and those are the comments that I wanted to have included in those. So I guess it's kind of up to the board whether you want to allow those comments to be in or not in, and we'll go from there, because I did not, board rules say I'm supposed to request it verbatim, even though past practices, that has not, I don't ever remember us doing it that way. It was always kind of, and I really don't want to do it that way, because I know verbatim is so much work, and under board rules, we can talk about that. Maybe there's another way that we can get our comments on, whether we can write them on. I don't want to confuse this and talk about that board rule change at this point. So, and really, it's up to the board. The board has authority to say, yeah, let Karen have her comments in there from that December 17th meeting or not. And if you say no, then it's a dead issue, and we'll move on from there. And I'll make sure it's verbatim, or whatever the board rules say from now on. Thank you.
Clerk Swanson, you prepared the minutes.
Right. Sorry. I'm clarifying Rule 7, record of the meetings. So 7.3 says a request for remarks to be included. Any board member may request to have his or her comments or those of others printed verbatim as part of the record. The preferred method of request should be made verbally at the public meeting, as it will enable the request to be fulfilled in an easier and shorter time frame. So my interpretation of that is that that request needed to be made at the December 3rd meeting. And the other thing I'm operating from is the other information, like MTA's rules for what should be in a meeting, that the meeting's about actions that are taken, not what's said. So those were the parameters that I've been working from, that the comments, there is audio available, so the comments don't disappear. Anybody has access to the comments made in audio because we post that. And the rules say that has to be posted like right away within 24 hours after it. And so trustee Lovejoy Rowe's comments are in the audio, but they're not reflected in this meeting because of Rule 7 and the guidance that MTA gives for minutes, as well as Robert's Rules of Order, which we approved at our first meeting together.
Trustee Lovejoy Rowe has requested that the minutes be amended. I don't even know if that's a proper term.
Addition be made, probably. I mean, that's what we always refer to, either additions or deletions in the past.
And the MTA rules and Robert's Rules of Order say that it's about like typos, grammatical errors, or something was omitted. What the request I hear being made is that at tonight's meeting, you are requesting that your comments at this time are written verbatim.
For the December 7th, for tonight's meeting, yes.
For the meeting tonight. That's the request I heard.
Madam Chair, oh, I'm sorry, are you?
I was just going to say,
Wait a minute, Trustee Peterson?
go ahead.
I just have a question on that. So just to get clarification from the clerk on 7, so when you want to add or correct minutes, is there a timeline? Are you saying that there's a timeline to submit that? Per Robert Rules of Order, which I believe it is.
So
Just to get clarification.
Right. The Rule 7 in our board rules say that if a board member wants their comments included, they're supposed to make that request. The request would be verbatim, and they do it that night at the meeting. So like if a board member tonight wants their comments written verbatim, they would make that request at the time they're saying that. And
It says their email, too, but it doesn't have a date.
right. And it says the preferred method is that night, and then there is no guidelines
Right.
for that part. As far as Robert's Rules of Order and MTA guidelines for minutes, strongly encourage that comments aren't included. That it's your action item and the support, and that comments are available because the audio is always available. So it's not that someone's comments disappear. The comments are on the audio. The minutes, or the purpose of the minutes, is to make public and to document the actions of the board. So comments are not actions, so they specifically say it's a record of what has been done, the actions that have been taken by a board, and not a record of what has been said.
Madam,
Therefore, then, Clerk Rowe comments, not Clerk Rowe, she was a clerk. Trustee Lovejoy Rowe's comments is requested to be put verbatim, and we can do that. And it would be in the next meeting agenda. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine at this point. The only thing I want to say, and maybe we can talk about some of the rules, I think that I'm not a person who ever wants to have all these minutes verbatim over and over. Because I know what that's like, and I know how much work that is. And I know that that requires a synopsis or, someone trying to understand when you ask your stuff to be included in there. And so we can talk about that in the board, the rules, but I also know that the motions, I understand that, and I think there's a lot of legal implications and stuff, why MTA has always said, and I've always been a person who supported that, but at the same time, what I support is just the clear-cut motions for and the records of the votes, without without comments. But at the same time, when what gets lost in that is the minority opinion, why you might not have voted for something. So that's my whole thing. And even also those that are for and stuff, especially, I don't think it's a really big deal, except for when it's issues that are somewhat controversial. And then, then I think it makes sense to have, well, this is why this group of people wanted it this way, and this is why someone else wanted it. So anyways, but yeah, I'm happy with what you brought, Supervisor Sumble.
Okay.
And we'll move forward because I think I've asked for verbatim. I covered what I said at the public hearing, like 3 different meetings, and now it'll be in this record,
Okay.
and we'll be done
So-
with that. So thank you. And in the future, we'll do whatever you vote on the board meeting rules tonight to get your comments in. Thanks.
Are there any other corrections to the minute?
I just want to note that on the last item, 6, the budget amendment number 16, there is a statement at the end that says, "See attached." And with the minutes that are the draft minutes, it was not attached. The process previously has been, once they're approved, to attach it. But in the future, we will make sure that there isn't that if we've said something in the minutes, see attached, it will be there. It isn't that it doesn't happen. The process is that after they're approved and they're made public, that attachment is there.
All right. So we have those two, one change and a request for verbatim. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under statements and checks, there's a motion would be in order, that if, I'm not sure what Clerk Trustee Rowe wanted to pull out. So statements and checks is being done separately right now? So a motion is in
Yeah,
order.
I just had a concern. I've been trying for, since the last meeting to get a copy of the detail.
We need a motion and support
Okay,
on
go ahead.
statements and checks. And
Then they can speak to it, right?
motion Eldridge,
Support.
support Newman.
Trustee Newman?
Okay. Discussion, is there any corrections on the statements and checks? Yes.
I don't have a correction. What I have is a question, and that is, I've been trying to get a copy of the McLean Winters detailed billing since the last bill that we got in December. So it's been, 30 days. And talked today to Clerk Swanson about it, who still isn't sure whether or not that is something that the township trustees have a right to. And so there's, discussion, going on about that, and research. I think that I respect her in trying to figure out what that is. And so because of that, it's like we're just voting this blank amount without knowing, like, what created that $168,000 bill. And so I did get some breakdown of it, but it's still not clear. There's line items that are 30,000 or 20,000, but you don't know, like, what went into that. And so until then, I just wanted to bring it up. I think the board could clarify that, without any further research, to say that whatever the 3 full-time elected officials have a right to do when it comes to the accounts payable or payments and checks or invoices, that the trustees have a right to that, and that would just end that, end that conversation. And I'd be glad to go ahead and vote on that tonight, to move forward on this, without pulling out a separate bill.
Just, are you trying to make a motion on that, or do you want to
Yeah,
discuss
I can make a
it?
motion on that. I would move that, that the trustees have a right to, the trustees be given the detailed attorney's bill every month.
Is there a support without discussion?
Support.
Is there a vote?
I have some discussion.
We got to vote on that. We're going to have to vote on that first without any discussion, but,
Oh, okay.
I mean, we can have a discussion on, so we're going to talk past Praxton. And I keep calling you Clerk Rowe because
it's
that's
okay.
how we serve together.
And Madam Chair, that was kind of my question.
Just a- yeah.
Okay.
So, hold on, so we are having discussion or we're not having
No.
discussion? 'Cause
Well,
we are discussing.
there's a motion and support on the
Okay, so
table.
we can have discussion right now.
Right,
Okay. Very-
No, I wasn't to table.
Point of order. No.
table.
I thought you said to table, the motion was to table. Oh, on the table, okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
It's on the table
Gotcha.
for discussion. Past practice has always been, and I was clerk for 16 years, and I'm not sure how long you were clerk.
Well,
But the past practice was, we always have the statements and checks available in the clerk's office for people, for trustees to come and review. I used to do it all the time when I was a trustee, and that information is available to the trustees. For the public, it's FOIA, so we keep track of things. So it sounds like that's what you did today.
No, what I did today was, just for clarification, is I went and saw those, but it does not have the detail. It just has general, general statements. It doesn't break down to say, like, I don't know, like, how many hours it took to get to $8,000 or a $30,000 charge. Like, it'll just have, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but Debbie did give it to me. I couldn't get it today, but Clerk Swanson, sorry, did give me that. But anyways, they'll have a line item, and it'll just say the amount, but I don't know, like, was that litigation, was that hours that had to go to court, was that, you don't know what that's for. And I think one of the things, and I know that we didn't do that, but I think part of it's coming from, the training that we recently went to that talked about how all 7 of us are the same, especially, and really, really focused at MTA training about, the whole fiscal responsibility and the whole statutory, that we're all exactly the same, which is one of the things I talked to Clerk Swanson today about. If we're all the same, then we all should have access to the same, information, in particular, same information, period, regarding the township. But in this case,
I'm not sure if HR is the same, but,
you're right,
okay.
yeah.
So that was past practice. I'm not,
Thank you. Madam Chair, that was my question, what was past practice? And then somebody would have to point that out to me, Karen, I guess, what you're referring to. And then also the other question would be, when you say we're all the same, I don't understand what you're saying here.
Well, MTA,
Clear first.
is that all right? Speak to MTA.
I mean, when you're saying we're all the same.
we're equal. We are equal in votes.
Right.
We're all
Well,
elected.
that's not what she
Right,
said.
right.
At the board table.
Well, yeah.
That's why I'm trying to get
Right.
clarification of
That's
what
what I
Karen's
heard.
saying.
It was,
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's
It was
equal in
yes.
votes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so it's so I took that, I look at that as, okay, so when everybody else is voting on the invoices, you have all the 3 full-time have a lot more information, extremely lot more information than we have. So we don't have the same information to come to the same conclusion or do the same votes or ask questions about or whatever. So, it's like we're being asked to vote on something, we don't have the same information that everyone else has. And the other thing, that other thing that I brought up to Clerk Swanson, I really don't want to do, because it's not a practice I think is great to have trustees having the FOIA stuff, but I do believe that, with exception, it might be redacted for specific, I don't know, but everything that they're in litigation about, the trustees already know about anyways, so I'm not sure that would even be redacted from the statement, but I believe that under FOIA, we'd get the information anyway, so. And I really don't want FOIA. I don't think we should have to FOIA.
I wouldn't,
as
I'm not the
trustees.
clerk, but as supervisor, I would never, I went through that, where they made me FOIA information as a trustee. They said you could come in and view all the statements and everything, like for the checks, you can come in and view them, but simple things, they made me FOIA it as a trustee, and I agree. I don't believe in that. There are some items, especially HR, that are exempt from people. I don't even see it. There's certain
Right.
things I don't see in assessing. I don't get all that information because of the law. And that's what I learned from the training. If it's not in a statute, it's not in a policy, then we follow statute. So
Right.
that was great training, but I don't understand, what's your motion in support to see the statements and...
My motion was to get the detailed McLean and Winters bill that we don't have access to. That's what my motion is.
So you don't want anyone's, you don't want the engineers?
Their bills are broke down in the actual information that's provided, so,
So I want clarity
Fine, you go.
yes.
to understand you're okay with the OHM bills and
mean,
So if we do it that format where everyone's the same, would that make, I think
I
that,
think that makes more sense, yes.
it does to me.
So if you want me to change my amendment, I
No, not at all.
can do that.
No, I mean,
If there's any other detailed information that's not provided by accounting, that the trustees want, that they wouldn't have to FOIA, that they could just get it.
no one asked you to FOIA. I hope.
No one didn't.
Okay,
No,
make that,
I'm not, yeah, sorry.
I want to make that clear.
Yeah, because I'm with
No
you,
one
Brent.
asked me.
I feel the same way as you on that. We're together on
Yeah,
that.
right.
So I just want a point of order, since your conversation is being, you're interpreting my conversation, so I want to speak for
Okay,
myself when we
yeah.
had the meeting. So I did not say that I was going to have you for FOIA.
No, you didn't.
I know, I just want to be clear, because you've been speaking for me, and I'm at the table, so I should be able to
Oh,
speak for
yeah,
myself.
if that came across that way, I apologize.
No,
I
I'm
never
not
meant
saying
to
it
say
came
that.
across that way.
Just-
But you referred to me several times, so I want to be able, the public is here, I want to be able to speak for myself. So again, let's keep in mind that I have only been in office for less than 2 months. When I found out that the process for statements and checks is that they could be made available so that trustees could look at them, I enacted that policy within one meeting. So you've been able to come in and you've been able to look for things. And I also sent an email out to every other trustee telling them that there'd be a process to be able to do that. So I'm not withholding information from trustees, and I did that quickly. I served 4 years, and I was never given an opportunity to do that, and the process wasn't in place in that office or communicated it to me. So I'm trying to go forward, and I'm trying to set up procedures and policies as I explained to you. So if I am cautious in my actions, it's because I'm trying to build a legacy of processes and procedures that can outlast me, because I didn't inherit that myself. So as I'm hunting and I'm learning, I'm trying to set it up so that as transitions happen, it's there. If another clerk decides, or a future clerk decides they don't want to use those processes and procedures, that would be their choice, but I wouldn't have left them with nothing. So my caution is to make sure that as we build an office that could be transferable, that I understand the process for handing things out and doing it. So I did give you a copy. So in the request that you're making for the invoice, I have not withheld that from you. You are asking for something that is more detailed, that does contain sensitive information, which gives me caution. And so whether the board wants those reviewed, or that's the pleasure of the board, but I have to know the direction that the board would like me to take. So what was in statements and checks, the way I looked at it, is the invoice that you were given last time and the invoice you were given this time. Immediately after you made that request and I told you I wasn't sure, I checked on it and I followed up and made and it was okay for me to do that. But that check also was an HR thing that we needed to check and make sure that that wasn't released. So again, I'm not trying to withhold anything from people. I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing things procedurally, policies that are aligned with board rules, with MTA, with the suggestions of Robert's Rules of Order, because it's not about me. It's about protecting the citizens and the residents, because we all work on behalf of them. So if I'm cautious, I'm doing that on behalf of the board, and I'm doing that on behalf of the citizens who elected us to do that, just like you're saying you want that caution in another way. I did, so I want the public to know you did get the document. The other one, the first time you asked, and so the records that are my statutory responsibility, that are part of statements and checks, I did share with you both times. And so what you're asking for is the record that is not held in the clerk's office. And that record does contain sensitive information. And so I think we, as a board, have to decide
Best practice.
best practice
We need
and
best
what
practice.
happens with documents that might contain sensitive information. Because I don't want to be releasing something. It's not my decision, it's the board's decision. I'm just acting on behalf of that. So I hope that makes it clear. I want the public to know nothing was withheld. You
Right,
were granted that. And I didn't suggest that someone would have, that you'd be forced to FOIA. You were suggesting that you just go about it that way because you wanted something quicker than I could make a decision on.
Yeah, it's just, well, I don't know, I want to interrupt if you're done.
Trustee Rowe?
Yeah, thank you. It's just, it's been 30 days, and at the end of that meeting, I had requested that I wanted the detail, and I still, to this day, did not have an answer on getting the detail, so I guess that's why I bring it to the board. And the only reason I said FOIA, and this is me, when I was clerk,
Well,
if someone could get something under freedom of information, to me, it was like, and it had to be redacted or whatever, you have the authority to do that. If you needed to send it to the attorney to have that taken care of, or if it was done by another department because it's not your information, then it, to me, it's just, and if it was for the trustees, then it made no sense. And that's what I meant. I didn't mean like it wasn't like a threat, I'm going to FOIA. It was just like, that's just the easy rule of thumb to know that your responsibility, in my understanding, it was somewhere between 16 and 20, 16 and 20, we adopted the new law under Freedom of Information, and we designated the clerk as the FOIA administrator. And under that law, if the document exists, then people have a right to, does the public have a right to everything that has to do with it? No, there's a whole different gamut there, but the trust that they do, and we're all elected, there's 7 of us are elected, and I don't think that you have to worry about if it says confidential or if it's not to be shared, if that's the way it's supposed to be. There's none of us that are going to go out and do that. We're elected not to do that any more than, I could say the same thing about the full-time people. It's like, well, I'm just worried about you getting it because, so I don't think that that's fair to say, well, you have to make sure that, that we're not going to, that it's, because we're the same when it comes to information. We're the same.
I don't think I said that. I mean, may I speak?
Clerk Swanson.
I don't think I said that part. And what I'm tried to explain today is the document that is statutorily my responsibility that's in statement and checks, which is public. Someone else could ask for it. That has been shared with you both times. What you're asking for is not the document of record for the statements and checks. It's a document with more detail, and that's what you're asking for. So when you say it's 30 days, you have been given the document the first time, and you were delayed today by a couple hours of me sharing. It's not the one you want. You want something that's more detailed, but the one that's part of my statutory records has been shared with you both times within the day you made that request.
Just for clarity, if I could, what I heard Trustee Lovejoy Rowe ask for is that she was, the way we do the engineering billing is what she would like the legal billing done as. Of course, domestic violence, there's certain sensitive information when they're prosecutors that we cannot and would not ever divulge. But the practice we have here has been done for 36 years, I know of. And I understand what you're saying. I think it'd be better to make the invoices the same so that it's more clear, like they did in OHM, which is their hourly.
What I'm asking for is there's a document, and it's been here from ever, long as I can remember, going back to when I was supervisor, that has detailed breakdown so that when you have $30,000 charged for some kind of litigation, it tells you there was a phone call made to the supervisor, there was this, there was that, 0.5 hours, 0.6 hours. That's the document that I want. That document that goes together to tell you why you have a $168,000 charge for 1 month from McLean and Winters. That's what I want. And it exists, and as the FOI, I can FOIA it, because as a coordinator, it is your responsibility. I mean, to do that if I had to do it that way, but you said that I didn't. That's why I was bringing it to the board to say, well, let the board tell Debbie that she can give the trustees the detailed statement from McLean and Winters, and we'll be done with this and move on.
Well, it's easy for you to say that. There's been several allegations now made. It's turned into more than what I hear you saying. But you don't have to FOIA. Well, you said that I don't want to have to FOIA it. We're all equal. Everyone said we're all equal. This is how we've done it for 30 years. And now you're proposing, as a returning trustee, a different way of doing it. And that's, I think we can talk about that, and we can provide that information, but we will not give sensitive information out no matter what if it's here. The accounting department, the clerk's office don't have it. That's the problem. So we have to look for it to see who else might have it and see if it's available for the trustees to review. And then it would be my recommendation that we do the attorneys like we do the OHM, and then everything is the same. You can get more information on it. It does not say I spent a half hour with this person, it doesn't say that. I haven't seen it, but maybe it does. I haven't looked at it. I look at the large invoice that we have, all the cases that are listed out, and how many hours were spent on that. But we can look for more information.
Yeah, they don't have hours on these documents that came, these two that I have from the last 2 billing cycles.
The number,
They don't have hours.
the number of hours, yeah.
Yeah.
And so-
It doesn't even, nothing about hours. It just has a flat charge.
Yeah, and that's what you would like, that's what OHM has, that legal services bill did not have on it.
And McLean and Winters used to send a bill like that to the township that was broken down with hours. 0.5 on a telephone call to supervisor, 2.5 for dictating a memo, for, whatever. Going to court, preparation for litigation. Right.
Clerk Swanson?
So I just want to understand what the clerk's office is being asked to do, because the record that's part of the statutory responsibility of that office has already been given. I hear you saying that they could be created in a different way, because we're not going to submit the detailed report as part of an invoice. That's not going to be.
We don't do that for any invoices, that's correct.
So I'm
But she
kind of
wants to-
feeling like this is outside of the scope of what my statutory responsibilities are. So as we have that binder, the notebook, or the file ready for somebody to come in and look at it, are we modifying that invoice so it would still be something that would be in statements and checks?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
is that what your understanding is that?
I want a copy of the invoice that you have with the detailed information that you indicate you had, even though it's not your statutory responsibility, that McLean and Winters has given to the township probably for at least 30, 40 years.
That is not something that would be in
That's what I
statements and
want.
checks. Because
I didn't say it was, but it exists.
that's why I'm trying to have.
Just get clarity. I mean,
clarification.
yeah, we're a new board, so we're
What
just going to figure this out.
What we hold is what was in the file. So that's what I'm asking clarification on. What you are asking for is not going to be on file
Fine.
because of the sensitive
And
information.
that's fine.
Okay, that's
I
what
understand that.
I'm
So
trying to
I know when I come in, I
determine.
won't see it. So if you want to, however you want to do it, you want to do it in a confidential envelope, you want me to come in and look at it? I don't.
That's how you did it in the past. In the past, you could come in and review it as a trustee. That's how we,
The
Well, I know when I was a trustee, I didn't even know it existed. It wasn't until I was supervisor and clerk that I knew that it existed. Right.
So I would just ask that the board, like, we need a policy for what happens with that. Like, it's easy to say, the policy is that anybody can come in and review.
statements and checks is what it
statements
says,
and
yeah.
checks. The other is different than that, and it is I'm not going to say it's outside, I mean, it is outside of what I'm expected
That's
to
a good
hold as
point.
the record. So, like, does it mean I make a copy? Does it mean, like, that's what I want to know, what the procedure is, so that when the request is made, I know exactly what the procedures are. Because again, I'm not inheriting clear-cut
Okay.
procedures.
So there's a motion by trustee Rowe, supported by trustee Thornton, that the trustees don't have to do a FOIA for the record. Was that?
I just wanted so I could get a detailed copy of the McLean Winters bill.
Well, so that's just on, but the action.
And you had talked about wanting to expand it, that if there's other bills that aren't detailed, we get that information. I'm not aware of other bills that aren't detailed, but lots of things probably changed in 4 years, so I don't know. I mean,
But that, we're voting on statements and checks. That is a motion before us, a motion to approve statements and checks. You're just asking for information.
we made a, well, there was an amendment made.
There was a motion made,
A
yeah.
motion, sorry, thank you. There was a motion made that could, asking that the trustees be giving the detailed McLean and Winters bill. That would enable a clear ease of mind to vote on the overall.
And what Debbie was saying, I'm sorry, Clerk Swanson, that there should be a policy on it for future coming forward. And I understand Clerk Swanson's position, and I'm not opposed to providing information to trustees. But right now, before us, is that amendment to provide copies. That's not even on statements and checks. I don't understand what, it's really not in proper form here.
It's fine.
Madam Chair.
Slow it
Well, we
down.
can-
Slow it down then. I just want to get a.
Yes,
copy
Trustee Peterson.
for it. How do I do that?
Madam Chair, if I could, I think there was a motion to approve statements and checks. I never heard a motion of amendment.
Yeah,
So if the clerk, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, I am
I'm
so sorry.
Apologize.
Apologize.
If the clerk could tell me who made that, who made the motion for just statements and checks?
Eldridge and Newman
Okay.
voted to approve it.
So I didn't hear an amendment to that, because we haven't voted on it. I don't know if anybody accepted her amendment. Who
Yes.
made the original motion?
Trustee Rowe requested that we do an amendment.
But she requested, Madam Chair, but did somebody who made the original motion to accept the statement of check accept her amendment?
Not
That's my
yet.
question.
No,
That's what I thought.
there was a
Trustee
second
Thornton
motion.
seconded it.
But
Yeah, they
that-
don't
she-
have to.
Right.
She didn't make the original motion. That's the point. Whoever made the original motion to accept the statement of checks, did they accept her amendment? That's my question of clarity I need to know.
They did not.
That's all I'm
I don't
saying.
think they're required to do that under our rules.
I'm sorry?
That I don't, under parliamentary, they're not required, it's a.
Trustee Lovejoy Rowe, we
Just ha-
really need to
You just have
start.
to support.
Yeah, so the motion support to accept the report with an amendment requested of Eldridge and Newman to add that trustees get copies or view the detail,
Copy of the detailed report of the McLean Winters bill as part of our
for which,
jobs for.
Clerk Rowe, Trustee Rowe, are you talking about the 7th or the 21st? Because there's, which statements and checks were you referring to?
It's only on the one bill a month, the 21st.
So that is the amendment.
It's on the second, second of the month.
So is like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did you need?
Well, I'm just, a point of clarity, point of order, I'm not sure what the term is. As Trustee Peterson said, eventually the minutes have to be typed up and stuff. If we didn't have if it wasn't supposed to move forward because it wasn't accepted.
We haven't voted yet.
But
That's the-
if it wasn't accepted to even have this motion by the original two people, do we have that
in place to even,
Just a point of
Someone-
clarification.
Yes.
It's not, the maker of the motion, the original motion that you're amending, does not have to have, you don't have to have their okay to amend it. You either vote that, you have to have a second, which we did have, you either vote that up or down, if you didn't
So you have to vote on the second motion first.
first.
That's what I was,
I'm sorry.
okay.
but before we do that, Attorney Winters, with the detailed report, how do you feel about providing copies of that out? I know we do, it's not in statements and checks, but
Well, as trustee Rowe is well aware, because she was the supervisor for many years and clerk, there's probably, I would say probably no attorney in this county that provides a more detailed billing than what I provide the accounting and full-time supervisor. And the 3-page summary that she says somehow doesn't give her information, all board members have a right to review that 62-page, 65-page, 80-page document. And the reason why that document is as lengthy as it is it because it contains personal information about a number of witnesses involved in the criminal cases, contains trial strategy, contains the names of defendants and witnesses, who their attorneys are, public defender's office, who is handling the case, contains a lot of information, sometimes even addresses as to where the subpoenas have been delivered to. And I don't have to tell anybody here that this board as to what, and so everybody has the right to review that. Getting copies right now puts anyone at risk of an accidental disclosure. Even in dealing with the sale of property, there's a lot of detail in regards to brokers, offers, counter offers, etc. And so, well, I've been here for 40 years. Even before I became the township attorney, there was always a summary that you see up there apparently. And there's also a very detailed that goes into conversation, dates of conversation, who was spoken to, and that is done that's under the attorney-client privilege. No objection to reviewing that 65 pages, and people have done that in regards to attorney-client privilege. It's not the same as an engineer in terms of that type of confidentiality. So I would, regardless as to who's sitting in this chair this year, next year, or 10 years from now, I would never recommend the board to release those documents in a way that they get out into the mainstream. It should be reviewed, it can be reviewed, and have been reviewed. But just like my letters contain a lot of confidential information too. But sometimes even those letters that I send out, I don't always put in there the trial strategy, nor do I intend to. Because again, and there have been, not on this board, there have been situations in previous board members where things were leaked out to the public. And the court became aware of that as well. So it's really for the protection of really all of you as well as everybody else that detail be reviewed. If someone has questions about that detailedness, then there's a way to answer that question. But right now, I would say for the integrity of the office that the detailed obviously is attorney-client privilege. The summary is foible. But that's not a surprise. Trustee Rowe, she's very familiar with that. And for all the years that I sent those detailed bills, I can tell you right now, not one time in those 30, 40 years, did you ever have a question about any specific charge? Not one time.
Because they were detailed, we had a copy
Yeah,
of
they're
them.
detailed, and you can see those.
Sorry.
You can see those today,
Yeah.
right now, but at the same time, I would never want to put any township attorney in this seat in a position of showing less detail because out of fear that they could be revealed. And especially in this day and age where you have people's names, addresses, we got neighbors. We have a system to call in here where you can be anonymous to report complaints. We have apartment complexes where tenants sometimes don't want their names used to talk about the conditions within inside the apartment complex. But you got a board, you have an agenda item tonight on that very issue of a landlord trying to make tenants pay for inspection fees. So it's done. It's not something that was just done here, this new board. It's been going on for probably 50, 60 years, at least 45 years. And it's held up well in terms of protecting the township, protecting the witnesses, protecting the defendants, protecting the township board members. And that's why I go to great lengths to make that detail. And that detail is available for review by the board members.
So I do appreciate Clerk Swanson. I mean, she was asked today, and she was really trying to dig into the issue. So I think to be cautious is better, but for the trustees or any board member to see, the detailed bill, we'll continue as we have and make it available. So you don't need a motion and support. Would you like to withdraw it?
I haven't seen the bill. You said as you have. I haven't seen it.
As you have in the past, it's been available to
But
be
not
done.
as trustee.
No, it is. She's an Clerk Swanson is a new clerk. She was being cautious and researching. And I think that's one thing I learned from the MTA, which was I'm so thankful the township sent us there. And we learned a lot about minutes, issues you're bringing up. And it was very clear. And when I was clerk, I had much more detail in my minutes. And you, as clerk, said, less is best, Brenda. That's MTA's practice.
Right.
And I respected that and accepted that because you were clerk. So for Clerk Swanson to really look into an issue, I want to thank her for that and not be so quick to do something. But right now, we don't need a motion of support to see the attorney's detailed bills because you can.
Okay. 'Cause that wasn't clear before.
No,
But how? I guess that's what I'm wondering. It's not going to be when trustee Lovejoy Rowe came today to look at the ones that were on file.
Right.
That document is not on file.
Right.
Right, so what are we proposing will be the process? How will that be shared? How will that be viewed? Because right now, what I allowed trustee Lovejoy Rowe to do is the process for coming and reviewing the statements and checks. So on top of that, what is it that the board is asking me to do in sharing the detailed document or making that allowing for that to happen for trustees?
When trustees want to come and view, I guess sorry, Doug, it's very specific to McLean and Winters this time, that we allow trustees to view it. Copies, I'm not so sure. I don't know if I agree that we should be handing out copies like that. But to view it, I think should be absolute.
But I'm wondering why is that the function of the clerk's office? Where is that document and where else? Why? Because it's not.
It was.
That document, the document that we're supposed to process is the document that you were allowed to view today.
In the past, it was in the clerk's office. And
Not the detailed one. I don't think I have any, records are not clear. I am not aware of any file at this time that is the detailed attorney reports.
And it might be in the electronic version of the previous clerk for some of the meetings, and send them to you. I have them electronically. I have to look for them. I didn't, because everything's electronic, and I thought the clerk's office was, had them too, so I didn't realize that. But we can make them available. We can find them. We can make them available for view.
So I'm just going to ask that the board creates, this shouldn't just be my decision as to how that gets processed. Like I hear you saying, well, I wouldn't give a copy. It has to be clear what the board's expecting me to do with that. Because what I am expected to do statutorily, I have on file and I've enacted. So I don't think that's something that just gets put on my lap to figure out the clarity of that. Because if we aren't giving comment, if we're not giving copies, then that has to be spelled out. How would the viewing take place? I'm not trying to make anything harder
You want a
for
process,
anybody, but things always work better when there's an understanding of what's supposed to happen. And right now, I hear a concern, and I hear something that Trustee Lovejoy would like to happen, but then I'm being told I'm hearing that this is just an action that I have to figure out, but it really isn't. We're saying, this is the board, we're all together, but then I'm being told that I'm the one who's got to enact the policy when that really isn't necessarily the nature of the clerk's office on that particular document.
True. Yes.
I understand the extreme need for confidentiality on it. I saw them for years, so I understand that. I think the easiest thing to do would be, other folks are trusted to have their copy. I think Trustee Newman and Trustee Peterson and myself and Trustee Thornton can be trusted to have a copy of the detailed build. How you want to do that, whether you want us to come by here and pick that up because you don't want to send it electronically, but it sounds like you already have it electronically. If you feel more comfortable with that, that's fine with me, but I think it's easier if it's just that. It's easier if it's just a hard copy that we actually get, or an electronic copy, instead of coming in to review it or see it in somebody's office and make an appointment of something that 3 other folks already have access to.
Well, if that is your request, that you get copies and it's sent out, then I'm prepared to vote on your motion. To view it like we have for 30 years, that's different. So now you're actually
Just
requesting.
trying to help with the frustration that I hear folks have on how are you going to do it.
I'm not frustrated at all. Actually, I like these kind of conversations, but I appreciate the clarity that she needs. And what she's asking for is a process for it.
So you personally feel that trustees should not have something that the other full-time officials have?
What I personally feel and professionally
It's part of
feel,
your job, let's put it that way, yeah.
yeah, is that we continue with the practices that we've done for 30 years so that confidential information is not released.
For 30 years, the trustees never even knew about that. I didn't know about that as a trustee.
But you did.
I'm
You
just
did.
saying.
You never, when you were supervisor, when you were clerk, you never gave out that
I'm
information.
just saying, trustees didn't know.
Well, you knew as clerk.
I know, but I wasn't
Thinking to
requested.
ask
It
for
wasn't
it.
requested, right, things change, you learn new things.
I think viewing is 100%. So we have a motion. The second motion was requested that we move and approve to release the detailed billings to all trustees.
That's what I.
Is that correct? That is the motion, so we have to vote on that.
Madam Chair.
All in,
Madam Chair. So are we saying that's in combination with accepting the statement of checks and also her amendment, or is it separate?
that's a second motion.
It's separate.
That was
That's
hers,
what I wanted.
that was a separate motion.
That's what I thought. So we're voting on the second motion only.
Yes.
And we would come back to the statement of checks to approve. That's what I want clarity for.
So the motion that is before us is that clerk, or trustee Rowe and Thornton would like is for the trustees to have all the copies, hard copies of the McLean and Winters bill versus viewing them. Board members, all in favor?
Aye.
No. I'm voting no.
All in favor? All in favor, there was one aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So that motion failed.
We all voted.
6 to 1. I heard everybody.
I didn't hear.
She voted
So it was,
opposed, correct.
okay. All right.
So for statements and checks, we have a motion support to approve statements and checks as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is a treasurer's report for December of 2024.
So moved.
There's a motion by Eldridge,
Support.
support by Swanson. Any questions or comments regarding the treasurer's report? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, is there any attorney legal update, Mr. Winters?
Madam Chair, yes, there is. I think right now you continue to receive many letters that cover everything from public nuisance cases to land use transactions. And we do actually have an existing purchase agreement for the sale of 3.70 acres to Culvers. That transaction was approved last year, and it's for $806,500. I was notified by the attorney and the owner of the proposed owner of Culvers that they're going to, and they have submitted a First Amendment to that purchase agreement that I will bring back to the next board meeting that will extend the ongoing due diligence, and they expect to close sooner than August 15th, but that will be the new deadline in the First Amendment, if so approved by the board. They continue to do all their engineering. They continue to do all their planning. In fact, I think it's ready to go to the Planning Commission meeting in the next 60 days. It's just they're working their way through the Washtenaw County Water Resource Commission, and some of those rules have kept changing over the years because of what they refer to as climate changes, which affects stormwater storage, etc. So they'll come back to the next board meeting. In addition, I did send the board out a detailed letter on December 30th, which attempted to summarize in a 5-page letter of the status of 4 separate arbitration cases that are ongoing right now involving the fire department. In that letter, I suggested to the board that if the 5-page summary was not sufficient, if the board wanted to have more detail, that I would recommend that we have a closed session. It is considered to be pending litigation, and both myself, HR, Karen Wallen, Erica Holmes, and Fire Chief Dinsmore would be more than glad to meet in closed session to answer any questions on those 4 arbitration cases. I also want to bring to the board's attention that I think we had a very positive first meeting with new Sheriff Dyer, who came to our police services meeting on January 14th, and I say very positive because she listened very closely and intently to a number of township concerns that we have expressed in regards to the ongoing gun violence that we witness in Washtenaw County. In fact, on the day of that meeting, just during the noon hour prior to our 1:30 meeting, there was a shooting at the Arbor One Apartments, and 3 individuals were actually shot, and they were transported to St. Joe or Trinity Health, actually during the time period we were meeting. And that also brought up the discussions that day, and the board may be aware of some of the letters, but we received the 2024 report that detailed every crime that was committed in Washtenaw County that involved the use of a firearm in 2024. I personally highlighted, I think, 30 or 45 of those cases that I could tell from the charges that the felony firearm charge, in my opinion, should have been part of the charges that were that made up that criminal activity. In fact, they weren't, and Sheriff Dyer did indicate that she too understood exactly where the concern was, and she was also going to meet with the prosecuting attorney in an effort to gain understanding from their point of view as to why that charge is not being utilized. I will say that last Thursday, we found out at the last minute that the case involving the person, the defendant, who committed a felonious assault with use of a firearm on township property back in October was back in court for another pretrial. Myself, Supervisor Stumbo, Treasurer Eldridge attended that hearing. It was clear, just sitting there for 3 hours when the case was called, that there had already been an agreement between the prosecuting attorney and the defense counsel to adjourn that again, with this adjournment now being scheduled for tomorrow. And again, while we were disappointed that it took so long to be told that, the one thing that was very enlightening from my standpoint was watching the number of cases that were called during that 3-hour period, in which I would say, unless the supervisor and treasurer would correct me, I would say at least 50 to 60% or better of those cases were township cases. And when I say township cases, I mean they were actually originated in the jurisdiction of this township. And some of them actually involved the gun violence we're talking about, not felony firearm. They involved other matters pertaining to firearms. And I would, I'll choose my words carefully. I was taken aback at what I witnessed as to the amount of case charges that were dismissed as part of a plea bargain. I've been practicing for 47 years. I know why you have plea bargaining, and I know what the purpose of that is. I did not understand what was going on that day in the courtroom, and I think on my own time, I'm going to continue to go and watch some of these cases because aside from the one that brings us to court tomorrow, I have some serious concerns about the cases that are being dismissed, especially given some of the things that have happened in the recent few years. But again, I do have a lot of confidence and faith that Sheriff Dyer has also, in that regard, has expressed her concerns or expressed her desire to have better understanding. And I talked with her since then, and we're going to keep the dialogue, because at the end of the day, I think everybody agrees that we can have all the new development that we want, but we want to have as safe a community as you can, because I think that safety is what brings people to our schools, to our businesses, and to our housing. And speaking of housing, the township did receive a proposal for the construction of a new 101 single-family development at the corner of Tuttle Hill and Merritt. And the township did have a contract, does have a contract with the transportation group headed by the former director of MDOT, and we've asked them to do a drill down on that intersection there at Tuttle Hill and Merritt Road, because right now it only has like a two-way stop sign. And we're concerned that given the amount of traffic that currently exists in that part of the township, we just anecdotally are concerned that with the amount of accidents that have happened at the end of Tuttle Hill when it comes into where it dead ends into Mars, I think it was at some point in time, the homeowner had to put up some barriers at one point in time because of the number of high-speed accidents that occurred at that intersection. But right now, Tuttle Hill and Merritt needs to be looked at very closely. I would say right now that we continue to close out projects to the community center, to the law enforcement center. They suffered water damage. The fire chief's here tonight. He was successful in selling our fire trucks, not for the price we hoped for, but it was for the price that a willing buyer was willing to spend. And that takes those fire trucks off of our insurance responsibility. And I'll continue to send out all the letters to the board members. And again, if there's any questions on any of these specific letters that I do write, or if someone doesn't want to have a conversation, or the board wants to have a more detailed conversation about those arbitration cases, we're all willing to meet with the board in closed session to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. We have new business, and then number 1 is to amend the township board rules. We need a motion and support. Motion Eldridge,
Support Peterson.
to approve the amended township board rules. Clerk Swanson, would you like to go through them?
Yep.
There's only 2.
So my apologies for these not coming in December. So these should have been given to you in December. As we read the rules, there are 2 requests that we think would be helpful. The first one is to 5.1, which is just a suggestion of time. So the time when people are submitting things to be on the agenda, to move it from 4:30 to 12 p.m., which would just give a little more time to prepare everything because they have to be posted by Friday. So when someone wants something on an agenda, they submit it by the Wednesday preceding the next regularly scheduled meeting, and we're asking to move the deadline. So in your packet, you have the requested, and then you also have a copy of the board rules so that you can see, well, you can see it in both, where we ask for it to change. So from 4:30 to 12 o'clock noon, which would give it a little bit more time on that day, Wednesday, to be preparing it.
Is there any discussion on that, since it makes sense to me?
And then the second request is 7.3, a request for remarks to be included, which was discussed previously. And so it talks about verbatim, and it talks about the preferred method, but then, and why, because you'd want verbatim takes time, so you're going to want that to be made that night at the meeting. And then there's a part that says if not made at the board meeting, the request can be made via an email request to the clerk. There was no deadline for that to happen. And so we're asking for that deadline to be by noon on Thursday following the board meeting. So if you were a board member and you decided that you wanted verbatim, it would give you another way if you didn't if that didn't happen that night of the meeting, to be able to get prepared or to make that request. So there was no, it just said it could be made.
Questions or comments on that section? Okay. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is authorization to enter in negotiations to sell township-owned property at 599 East Grand Boulevard.
So moved, Peterson.
Motion Peterson,
Support Lovejoy Rowe.
support Lovejoy Rowe. Discussion. This will be brought back to the board. Brian is here.
Hi, Brian McCleary, Deputy Assessor. So this is a property that we received through the Washtenaw County tax sale. In 2011, Washtenaw County quit-claimed it to Ypsilanti Township. And so it's basically, I don't have a buyer at this point. It's just getting approval to seek a buyer for the property.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is authorization to enter into negotiations to sell township-owned property at 2302 Holmes Road.
So moved, Peterson.
Motion Peterson,
Support Thornton.
support Thornton. Discussion?
So this is a property that, again, we got from Washtenaw County Treasurer's Office. It was a tax sale that it didn't sell, and so it was quit-claimed to the township in 2017. It's a 45-foot lot. The next door to that, adjacent to it, is actually owned by Habitat, so it'll be exploring a potential sale either to that neighbor or the neighbor on the other side to sell the property.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is authorization to enter into negotiations to sell township-owned property at 142 Devonshire.
Still move.
Motion Lovejoy Rowe, support
Peterson.
Peterson. Discussion?
Once again, this is a tax sale property that it didn't sell, and Washtenaw County Treasurer's Office quit-claimed it to the township in 2011, and we're just seeking approval to find a buyer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is authorization for circuit court litigation to abate a public nuisance at a property identified as 539 Kennedy. Motion is in order?
Support Peterson. Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Adopt the Board of Review schedule.
Number 5 is adoption of the 2025 Board of Review schedule.
So move.
Motion Lovejoy Rowe.
Support.
Swanson. Questions or comments? We do this every year. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that clarification. Number 6 is authorization for circuit court litigation to abate a public nuisance at a property identified as 539 Kennedy, which is budgeted in account 101-729-801-023. Motion is in order.
So moved.
Move Peterson.
Support.
Motion Peterson, support Eldridge.
Good evening, Board. This is a property, 539 Kennedy, as the supervisor said, that is
Excuse
owned
me.
by,
Could you identify yourself, please?
oh, I'm sorry,
That's
Belinda
okay.
Kingsley, Community Compliance Director. Haven't done it for a few months.
Thank you.
Anyways, this is a residential property that's owned by a husband, wife, and their son. And over the years, this generated quite a few complaints, going back to 2008. They were more minor in the past, but lately they've intensified. We have provided notice of violations and not really gotten anywhere with them. They've resolved it for a while and then gone back to what they were doing. But the neighbors have complained about the blight. They're running a firewood business, sales business. They're processing the firewood on the site and then also now marketing it and selling it on the property. And neighbors have complained it's causing rodent harborage. So we're trying to get this resolved and out of there. In an effort to try to resolve it, other than the notice of violations, we've also made contact with the son who is running the business. The parents are actually in Florida, is my understanding, for the winter. And the son is not interested in making any changes. He doesn't think that he's really committing any violations, and has pretty much welcomed us to take this to court to try to resolve it.
Questions or comments? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7 is authorization for circuit court litigation to abate a public nuisance at a property identified as 1314 East Forest, which is budgeted in account 101-729-801-023.
So move.
Motion Lovejoy Rowe. Support Eldridge.
Okay, and this is another nuisance case that has been around for quite a while, and we've tried to, over the years, it's generated a lot of complaints from neighbors. We've tried to resolve it. People before me tried to resolve it, and it has not been resolved. Continues to go back to the same issues that keep reoccurring. There is blight on the property. The pictures speak for themselves. There's a lot of blight. They're using it as a storage yard for vehicles that are towed by a commercial company, along with another property that's down the street owned by the same family. Let's see.
Are there any questions
Yeah. That's it.
or comments on this?
I guess my usual.
Clerk Swanson?
Sorry, my usual question is, like, we check for vermin and those types of things so that when we're in court, we can make sure that there's a problem, that the township's not paying for that, or that would be part of the cost of it. Are we doing that with all these properties where there's issues like that?
On this one, I did talk to our other attorney, Mr. McLean, about this, if we could get an order to get in, or if we should, try going it through as a notice of violation. He recommends that when we get into court, that's one of the things that we bring up initially. And because we really have no way of evaluating it other than from the right-of-way.
Right.
We're hearing this from neighbors that, these properties have this problem, but without the ability to go on their property and evaluate it, there's no way for us to confirm it and seek treatment.
Yeah.
But when it initially gets into court, we would ask for approval to have an evaluation and to start treating at their expense.
That would just be helpful, because so often, by the time the problem gets bigger, it's moving into other people's property, and so we just want to make sure. So
Right.
thank you. So if that's part of the process, when we go to do that, that would be helpful. And I know that I've said this, as long as I've been seeing them. I just want to make sure that if there is a problem, that it gets addressed, because otherwise it just causes a larger problem in the neighborhood.
In a case like this, too, where we're going to ask them to clean up a lot of blight, or we're going to go in with a court order and clean up the blight, we want to have the treatment in place before things start getting moved, or they're just going to go into the neighbors' yards and they'll just spread. So we do want to get that addressed before we start the cleanup.
And that's probably something new in the last 4 years. Vermin, they call rats vermin. So vermin abatement is often looked at, especially we'll get ordinance calls on, I've seen, I'm going to call them rats, and it's due to this. And you'll go out and look, and Orkin sometimes will go out and try to identify if there is a path. There's a whole science to this vermin issue. And we have always, like Clerk Swanson said, try to be ahead of that. Because once you start moving stuff around, that's where they're living, is within a lot of the junk. So we do need to look at that. And on this property, and all the properties, we try to resolve it first. That is our goal. And as you can look in the history, we give people a lot of time to comply. And then the neighbors are rightfully upset. But our goal is first to get people to comply. And if we can't get that, then we come to court ask for litigation if needed. Sometimes, just by authorizing litigation, property owners will reach out and say, we're going to clean it up. And and it's helpful. But this property's been going on for quite a while as well.
Yes, yes, it has.
All right, so we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8 is authorization of circuit court litigation to abate a public nuisance at a property identified as 227 Bryn Mawr, which is budgeted in account 101-729-801-023.
So moved, Lovejoy Rowe.
Motion Lovejoy Rowe,
Support.
support Thornton. Belinda?
This is a situation where we are trying to perform the rental inspections on a property to make sure that the housing that's being provided to our residents is safe and clean and meets the standards of the International Property Maintenance Code. But we've been denied access, and we followed our procedure by giving notice that we're coming to do the inspections, and they've indicated that they don't participate in the inspections unless a resident requests an inspection. And this is in the lease that the resident has to request it and pay for it themselves. And we do offer, if a resident has an issue, we do offer free of charge to the resident an inspection under our property maintenance code. But in this case, this is our biannual inspection that we do, and we're being denied access to do it, even though in 2023 we inspected 64 units and certified them. We need to do the last 47 units now. We tried to start it last year and have been denied access. So we're going to need assistance from the court to get access to the properties.
Thank you. Mr. Winters, you had some comments on that?
Madam Chair, this is, I think, again, this is one of the more egregious paragraphs that I've seen in landlord-tenant agreements where management is saying, well, first of all, we are not going to allow you to do an inspection for property maintenance, safety, to see whether or not you're in compliance, be it electrical. All of us are seeing on the news what's going on in a different complex in the city. And you know what happens sometimes if you don't do these regular inspections. But in this case, they're saying, well, first of all, you can only do it if the residents say, okay, you can do it. But if they say, okay, you can do it, they have to pay for it. And I mean, face it, this is a situation where making the rent may be sometimes difficult enough as it is. And then trying to put that responsibility of the landlord onto the tenant's shoulders by saying, oh, by the way, if you do allow the township to inspect it, you got to pay the fee. I think that's really unconscionable. So while the litigation can be authorized if the board sees fit, I think we're also going to at least turn this section of the lease over maybe to, I don't know if the proper body would be the tenants union, the attorney general, consumer division, but somebody has to look into, I think, putting these type of burdensome charges on tenants when the township is simply trying to ensure that the apartment unit is up to code and is being safe and is going to make sure that the heating, et cetera, is working. And I've never seen too many of these, but this one here is a reminder that they still exist.
This is a first. I agree. I've never seen anything like this. But I've never seen conditions of apartments. And that's why we do inspections, is to make sure it's safe, to make sure there's not mold, to make sure everything is operating. They have heat. I mean, these are basic inspections that every house should be held to. So I'm surprised that they're taking this position. And is this the same owner as the ones in the city?
No, I don't think so, but sometimes the management companies are different, and we'll probably have to maybe look into that a little bit more carefully, but I don't know the names. Sometimes they're similar. I don't know exactly the corporate structure, but we'll get into all that once we do the title work and go to court. But again, I just don't think that paragraph is legal. I think the Attorney General, somebody should step in there and issue a cease and desist on that, because that's just not right to put that responsibility of licensing and inspection on the backs of the tenants. I'm kind of shocked they actually have that in there.
The lease actually discourages people from, tenants
Right.
from having an inspection.
Absolutely.
You have to pay.
They're
Scaremongering.
penalized, yeah. I know trustee Thornton, you have had conversations regarding this and trying to helping people in the residents in the apartment complex or the rentals.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the resident that I've spoken to that live in the complex is afraid that once they pay for the inspection and the township comes out and performs the inspection, they're going to find issues, which means that the rent is going to go up. So it's just a fearful situation all the way around.
That's sad. It really is.
It is.
That you can't even report something anymore. So there's steps in process. Belinda, correct me if I'm wrong. You first have to notify the property owner of the issue.
Yes.
If there's an issue in your unit, and then they have to respond to that request.
Yeah, when we take a property maintenance complaint from a tenant, they need to provide proof to us that they have tried to address it with the property management company or the property owner, and that has not followed through with whatever the problem is being fixed or remediated. But and a lot of times, the things that we find during a rental inspection are sometimes more minor. By the time somebody actually does a property maintenance complaint and risks, being charged or evicted or something like that, it's usually a very serious situation by that point. But we find things when they're in a more easily corrected stage by doing these inspections every other year.
Madam Chair, I'm also concerned that this could also be used in a retaliatory manner. If a resident does actually say, come in and inspect this, and I'm not paying for it, then they either are going to retaliate by having an eviction proceeding, perhaps. But I think that while I think the township has a right, and we've had to go to court in the past to gain access to those units, the apartments that in many cases were extremely in need of corrective remedial action. I think this puts a chilling effect upon anyone reaching out for or even to make a complaint. Because again, if they're going to charge you, if they simply allow the township to do what's required to be done, I'm sure there's a way that they keep track of that. And I'm just concerned about the potential for retaliatory action by the management company. And I guess I know that there's apartments that do a fantastic job for their tenants. And there's some that actually, we're scheduled to meet with the city because the complex in the city is across from a similar complex in the township where we don't have those issues at the moment, but we're willing to meet with the city to try and share with them maybe the pathway that we've taken in the past that might be assistance, because I know they have a new city attorney. But again, we don't want to get to that point where you have to have Channel 7 Action News out there doing a report, because we're trying to be, as you said, pretty proactive and try to resolve those issues. But this is pretty startling to make them actually.
Just for a point of information, does the state law require the renter to notify the property owner first? And if we don't know the answer, we can look that up.
Yeah,
I think it does, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know if it does or not. We'd have to check into that.
Yeah, so we can check into that. And then under the Attorney General, Mr. Winters, would you be writing the letter?
I think we, probably with my partner Dennis McLean, we're going to probably make some phone calls.
Okay.
And I need a full copy of that lease, if at all possible. This is just an excerpt, but we'll get that in discovery.
I believe that's all that they gave us, but we could probably get a full copy.
Would that be consumer gouging or consumer protection under the Attorney General? I think
I think to be required to pay for an inspection that's being performed pursuant to a township ordinance. I don't think that's legal. But again, I think that they may fall within their jurisdiction, but I
Right.
think it needs to be brought up. And maybe we'll bring it up in circuit court too.
Okay.
Clerk Swenson?
So my question, looking at the lease agreement, is it looks like it's way more than just a resident wanted an inspection. This looks like their rent is never, like at any point in time, they could add. So if an inspection is done and a bunch of stuff is found, and at what point are they responsible for, like, that unit being in compliance with the law when they rent it, instead of saying, okay, you've signed a lease, and if we haven't done our due diligence, I mean, it's pretty open-ended that if there's any increase in costs on their part, the renter's going to have to pay for it. So it seems like rent would never be stable because, you know, if they need a new water heater, does that mean their rent's going to be increased because there are new water heaters needed? Even the property taxes seems interesting to me because it seems like when you sign a lease, they're agreeing to something and you're agreeing to something, and then their due diligence to check that out. I don't know, is this common? Anyway, it's more than just you wanted somebody to come do an inspection. This is like anything at any point in time, they're going to be charged. Although it says governmental agency, so maybe not with, well, that's only for the inspection part, but that's just generally concerning in any way possible, because there's so many different things that they could tell them they have to pay more for.
Any additional costs in operating the residence?
This is the first that I've seen anything. That's sad, very sad.
Yes, it is.
So, Mr. Winters, you will reach out to the Attorney General's office?
Yeah, we'll follow through with the right agency at the state level, and I was just thinking out loud about the Attorney General, but it could be others too.
And thank you, Belinda, for bringing these forward on behalf of the community and the residents that live next door and protecting the renters. So we have a motion and support to approve item number 8. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Belinda.
Yep, thank you.
Number 9 is authorization to approve the agreement with Munavate LLC for improvements to the building department platform to the BSNA operating program for $14,247.52, which is budgeted.
So move.
Motion Lovejoy Rowe. Support Eldridge. Questions or comments? This has been reviewed by our township attorney. It's in proper form. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 10 is authorization to approve amendments to the 2024-25 Washtenaw County Senior Nutrition Contract.
So move, Peterson.
Motion Peterson,
Support Lovejoy Rowe.
support Lovejoy Rowe. Are there questions and comments? Clerk Swanson?
It might have been a little confusing in the packet. This was something that was supposed to be signed previously and wasn't. So in your packet, you have the full contract that was signed before and the amendment just because it was signed by a previous board. So I wanted to make sure that the new trustees knew the original contract, but it's just the amendments that we're approving tonight
Okay.
to that original contract, which I believe is a 5-year contract, so it will be expiring.
Questions or comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is authorization to sign the memorandum of understanding between Ypsilanti Township and Washtenaw County Water Resource Commission for the ARPA Stormwater Grant Program.
So move, Peterson.
Motion Peterson, support Lovejoy. Yes. Good evening.
I have to push the button. Okay, I'm Gretchen Driscoll, your new Water Resources Commissioner as of the last election in November. I started a couple of weeks ago. So I'm mostly here just to introduce myself, and I'm delighted that we actually have an agenda item. So I know it's just an MOU, but I did want to introduce myself as your new commissioner And my understanding is that we have had a good relationship and a strong partnership, and I'm working really hard to make sure that continues. I wanted to give you my work cell phone, which I haven't memorized yet, is 734-395-7329. And my work email is Driscoll, and Driscoll spelled D-R-I-S-K-E-L-L-G. So Driscoll Gretchen, so driscollg@washtenaw.org. So that's my contact info. I know that you've worked with our Deputy Commissioner Scott Miller and also Harry Sheehan and probably Theo, who does some of our environmental work. And so I really just wanted to stand in front of you. I'm brand new. I'm trying to go through all the townships. Brenda and I have talked several times. And I wanted to see if you had any questions of me right now in particular. I know this is your meeting, so I'm really just here to introduce myself, but that was one thing. And then I did also, I am trying to figure out how to do more public information outreach, and we do have like a PowerPoint called Water 101 that explains what drain commissioners and water resource commissioners do, and happy to offer that either to this board or your community at some point. And then finally, I wanted to make sure that I know that the fire relief information session is coming up on February 25th, and I think we just set that date last week. And I know with the change right now with the weather, like information's maybe not getting out yet, but I wanted to get that on your calendar because I know that's an important issue area for you guys. So do you have any questions?
On tonight's agenda is actually the request for a memorandum of understanding. And this was from last year. So there was ARPA money allocated by the county for stormwater. And
We had a grant program,
yes, you have a grant program, and Ypsilanti Township has a project, and it's for culverts at Ellis Road to replace them. And the actual grant is $77,000 comes from the ARPA money to,
We're like a pass-through,
Yes.
basically. You applied.
To the
My
water
understanding is that the township applied for some of the ARPA money for this specific project, and then the road commission's actually implementing the project. So the grant's for half of the project, if I'm correct.
50% is going to be paid for
Through the grant.
Through the grant, and then the other 50% is going to be split between the Washoe County Road Commission and the township. So this is from last year. The grant money was allocated from the county to the water resources and we just now have an MOU to make sure we're doing it right according to ARPA, so.
Okay, great. Any questions?
One, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
And could you just repeat the phone number one more time?
Oh, sure. It's 734-395-7329.
Thank you.
Yep, of course. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to go beyond the agenda item. Thanks.
And the township will pay up front and be reimbursed like other grants. Thank you for coming. Are there any other questions or comments regarding agenda item 13? We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 12 is the authorization to sign the agreement with the Washoe County Road Commission to replace the Ellis Road culvert in the amount of $115,500, which is budgeted.
So moved.
Support Peterson.
Motion Eldridge, support Peterson. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is number 12, authorization to sign agreement for the Washoe County, I already did that. Number 13 is Resolution 2025-01, authorizing administration of fiscal year 2024 Community Project Funding Grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the American Center for Mobility, contingent upon attorney approval.
So moved.
Support.
Go ahead, dear.
Motion Eldridge, support Thornton. Mr. Winters, do you want to give an overview?
I think the overview is kind of that the HCM has applied for a grant to continue making infrastructure improvements to the ACM property, mobility, in an effort to expand the, they have some type of a technology park they're trying to develop over there. And so if they receive this $1.666 million, they have agreed to oversee, administer, take care of all the grant requirements, reporting requirements. And this resolution would authorize them to handle this $1.6 million in accordance with the terms of that grant. We don't have the grant this evening, and so depending on what happens in Washington, we'll wait and see whether we get it or not. But at the same time, if we do get this and they do invest in the ACM property, we haven't had a chance to talk very much to the new board members, but the township receives a special payment in lieu of taxes this time each year. And so each time they make improvements to the infrastructure, that payment will go up the following year. And so it can never go down, and the base right now is like around $260,000. I'm not sure I know I'm not exactly right. But we want to see them continue to fulfill their mission statement of development at the ACM property. And they've also indicated they're willing to give everybody here kind of a more up-to-date tour of their facility and everything. But this here would be great for them to continue to develop the infrastructure so their technology park can come to fruition.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding that? In our meeting that we had last week, was it last week or the week before? 2 weeks ago, my time frame, I'm sorry. They did talk about how they want to have more community engagement meetings, because really a lot of people don't know what is happening at the American Center for Mobility. So they have committed to doing that, and it's actually going to be part of the grant, that they do more community engagement and invite people to come out and tour the facility. So that's a really positive that will come out of this. Either way, I think it'll come out of it. And like Attorney Winters said, we're not sure if the grant's going to be actually given. We'll find out more from the new federal government, new president. So I think we might, but I'm not sure how it works. It was allocated. I'm hopeful. So we have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 14 is a recommendation for the appointments for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So approve the recommendations.
Motion, did you say support? Yeah, support Rowe. And are there questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 15 is a request to discuss streaming of meetings in October 2025. Motion is in order? Motion Eldridge, support Swanson. Discussion.
Does this mean the meetings would begin in October 2025? Okay. So
What meeting? Clerk Swanson.
in October of 2025?
In October of this year, yeah.
We would start the discussion about it.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in
Yes,
favor?
actually, can I?
Question? Sure.
Yes.
Of course, trustee
Um,
Thornton.
Thank you. Why would we push it out to October?
In the memorandum that was in the packet, we talked about the Ypsilanti Township IT department, and Fort Toomey Court is under renovation right now, from January 6th to September. The staff and services have been relocated to the Civic Center. It's been a challenge, but we're working through it. And streaming meetings have been briefly discussed at board meetings. We would like to recommend formal discussion to begin in the fourth quarter of this year. Current priorities that we're working on and trying to wrap up is the renovations to 14 and IT room, the complete ARPA projects that are in progress, hiring of the full-time staff, E-course road corridor, and we have millage renewals also that are, we have to work on and bring back to the board in February. So we're asking that we wait until have this issue so we can thoroughly discuss it and have information available on costs and what it. Did that answer your question?
Somewhat, yes and no. I get everything that needs to be discussed, right? But I personally feel like streaming is important for the masses, not just the board, but just so so people don't have to come out and sit at the meeting to hear what's going on, or wait until the audio comes out, which I was able to hear the audio from the last meeting, right? And I was a little taken back because I was under the assumption that court was not going to be held in this room, and it is. And going back to Attorney Winter's statement and the safety of the Civic Center, the board members in general, and the staff, right? And we should all feel safe and be safe. And with the streaming services, not only are people able to view our meetings in real time without having to wait for the audio, but they're also able to make comments instead of actually having to show up at a meeting to make a comment. Because with an audio, you can't comment.
Thank you. Other comment?
Madam Supervisor?
Trustee Lovejoy Rowe.
Yeah. I know that things that people are busy, but doing Zoom meetings that we did during COVID was a pretty easy process, and it's relatively, what I would say, quote unquote, cheap. I mean, you could do $20 a month. You can have 300 participants. We had a lot of participants at our COVID meetings. Never did it get to 300. So the expense, and I don't, maybe we do Zoom right now because it's so easy to get up and running. I mean, we could just probably hire a high school kid that could come in and do it. But to wait until even October to have discussion, I mean, I guess part of it is the board even interested? Because if there's not 4 votes, there's no point in waiting until October if there's 4 votes to even. So I fully support it and would like to do it tomorrow, I just think that we had such huge success with it. And believe me, it was during a crazy time. I took a lot of hits during that time, but I still support it, because it was during the election and things got pretty insane. But we had the most participants than we've ever, other than maybe some really controversial issue, we've had more people participated and zoomed in than we ever had. And today's society, especially seniors, a huge amount of our population is seniors, and it's so hard for them to get out anytime, but especially in the winter. And one of the things, because, it's been, probably some of you got it, on Facebook, I've kind of got it out there. And folks are people are really supportive. There wasn't one person who said, most people could not, there's probably half the conversation said, are you serious? Y'all aren't doing it? I mean, even teeny tiny organizations are doing live, streaming and having people participate. I mean, the counties, small townships, much smaller than us, are doing it. And it just seems like to not even want to even talk about it until October. I mean, we're talking about it now, so I don't really understand. But it's not, I don't think it, if you want to do something that's different than what we did during COVID, I guess we get to start that discussion in October, but I don't see any reason why we can't just go ahead and Zoom these meetings like next month, because it's not that big of a deal. The court is not meeting in here, my understanding, very often. They're doing Zoom court every single day. Oh, and just for point of information, Doug, for you, because I don't want to forget, the county's closed tomorrow. That means there's no court tomorrow either. So just want to let you know that, because I know you said there was a case. Sorry, get off track. But, yeah, so, I mean, they're Zooming, the court every single day on Zoom. I mean, the county they use Zoom. And you have, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You get on there and watch the courts especially. But anyways, yeah, so it's a pretty easy thing. The community is used to that, I think. There's team and stuff too, but I think Zoom is the one that's probably, people are most easy, and the courts are using it, and it's easy, and it's simple, and unless IT has something that I don't know about that happened, that, we had that one glitch, but once we got the password, which is what everybody does, we had that one glitch where people put up stuff that was crazy and insane and race, very discriminatory and racist. But once they got it locked down, you had to put the code in, because we just had it open freely, free willy. But once the township had it, like everyone else does, if you go on the City of Ypsilanti or Washington County or Washington County Road Commission, any of the municipalities, there's a link that you get, and so that stops that from happening, that you have to get that password or whatever they call it. So anyways, I think we should do it like our very next meeting, but it probably would take all of an hour to set up through calling Zoom, so I don't understand. I understand that you're really busy, but I don't understand what that's got to do with Zoom. So I don't know. I'm really interested. Do the board members, do people support Zoom streamlining? Because if not, we can just, if we don't have 4 votes, we can stop the conversation now.
Are you done?
Yeah, that's all.
So streaming is what was brought up before. And we didn't get it on the next meeting. And we wanted to give a deadline because we do have some IT issues that are going on right now. We don't have cost estimates for streaming. The acoustics is terrible in here. And Trustee Lovejoy Rowe, you discussed this in the past. We have been through this in the past, where it has come before the board to look at doing streaming. And at that time, there wasn't support for it. But we did go out and have cost estimates for, and when people say it's not a big deal, sometimes that's offensive to the people who do the work. Some things might seem like a small issue to some, but to people who don't have time to do it, it's a big issue. So I'm just asking that we get the cost for streaming and the cost for, like we did before, the acoustics, and at least so you know, as a trustees and as board members, what does it cost to actually do this? And you can not do it right. That's different, but Ypsi Township has always tried to do things professional. So for me, that gives us time to work on these other things and get them done. Clerk Swanson.
So this topic was discussed in my session when I was at the MTA conference, and what was recommended is that you could do it, or not do it, but was strongly encouraged is that if you are planning to do it, that you take the time to create a policy and the procedures so that you know what you're getting into in addition to the cost. So I guess the cost and whether you wanted to do it or not, but it was strongly encouraged that you, they said, like sometimes people say, oh, we're going to go off, we're going to do it, but then they don't think through the things that you need to think through, and there could be unintended consequences. So the encouragement there was to take your time to develop a policy if that's the direction that you want to go.
Other comments?
So does the board generally, are people willing to say that they support it overall if we work out these issues? Because if not, we'll just shut up. We don't need to bring it up anymore.
Well, the agenda item, Clerk Rowe, or Trustee Rowe, is to do it in September, which is because of everything going on. So
The discussion in September, right, or October?
But a discussion like an agenda item where everything that would be needed to have that discussion would be brought forth so that a fruitful discussion with everything that you needed to make that decision would be in place. So not just, well, would we like to do it or would we not like to do it? I think the intent was to put it on as a motion, on as an agenda item, like the other items that we have prepared tonight, with all the information for trustees to make those considerations, so that they'd be prepared to discuss it in terms of what are we actually looking at, rather than it would be easy, or we did it over here, we'd be looking at the actual things that would make it easier for somebody to make a decision.
That's Supervisor?
Any other comment? Trustee Lovejoy?
I still didn't answer the question. I mean, you could state generally whether you support making our meetings live and streaming. That's all I'm asking, because if not, we don't need people doing a bunch of work for something that folks don't support. And I know that maybe it's not what you're thinking of as a professional, but we did it for a long time during COVID, and it worked. Could we do that now and then come up with some, you know, some more sophisticated way that you want to do it? I mean, it is the way that the courts are doing it, with multiple people. Attorneys are on the screen waiting to be called out of the room with their defendants and with their attorneys. So the attorneys for the defendant is one place and someone else is somewhere else. So, I mean, you can do it. Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Madam Chair, the question here is that it was the motion was request to discuss the streamline of the meetings in October, and you always have a right for discussion. But I don't think anybody has a right to force anybody to have to give an opinion this evening, because of the fact it says discussion, the motion. It doesn't say anybody has to give opinion this evening. But for me, I would say this: I would rather, and you know, I'm on the board of Yucca. They have a full-time tech there, full-time. Something go wrong, he's sitting right in that chair. They have cameras, they have the big screens. They have another lady at this other end to make sure everything's lined up right. I don't know how much it costs them, but I think there's a cost behind it. If you're going to do it, excuse me, let's get some professionalism about here. You just don't get on, not YouTube, what is it called? Zoom. And you're all over the place. Then I think, for me, I think you have to consider, are you going to do it at every meeting? Are you going to do it at, nobody even mentioned this. Are you going to do the board meeting? Are you going to do it at the zoning commission meeting? Are you going to do it at the planning commission meeting? Why are you specifying, I don't get it, why are you specifying the planning commission? I mean, the board meeting. We have 4 different meetings we go to. How are we going to pay that check to come in for every meeting to make sure everything is lined up right? And if we aren't, we still need to get a process of how much this budget's going to cost. That's my opinion. I just don't feel comfortable in giving no reason whether you like it or not, want it or not. I'm not saying I disagree with it, but I don't want to do nothing half-step. I don't think it's professional. Just to say we're going on Zoom.
Right.
County's been doing that for years. I don't know how many cameras. I don't know if they have a tech on site, but I'm pretty sure they darn do. So that's my opinion. Can we at least get some information and stop going off the cuff about things you guys don't need, saying it's going to cost $20 to do a Zoom meeting? Well, that's awful cheap. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know. I want to be on Zoom for $20 and have a school kid monitor it. I don't feel comfortable with that. So that's just my opinion. I have no hard feeling, but I'm just saying, again, the motion does say, can we have this discussion in October? And I think we'll have more information at that time. That's my opinion. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And the court, they're moving out of Zoom because Zoom was implemented during COVID, and they're moving to go back in person. Just so, actually, we would probably be in person here if it was in the renovated court. But the reason she hasn't, but the state has requested that court go back to in-person meetings, just for the record. That's what I wanted to share, but I think this puts a time frame on it and allows, it's been brought up at 2 different meetings, and I thought it would be helpful, and so did Stan and Debbie, to actually put a time frame on it. Yes.
Madam Chair.
Public
My name is
comment?
Linda Mealing. I live at 597 Eugene. Thank you for the discussion about Zooming, and I know it was brought up in our neighborhood meeting last night somewhat, and a lot of people are thankful that you are going to consider it. The cost was something that, yes, that came up, and, you know, I don't know all the details and everything, but it sounds like for you to at least look into it, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Christina Reeves. I stay on Laurie Street. It's kind of disappointing to come to this meeting and see all this tension that's here. And I know people, I see it. I know people see it. We all voted for everybody who's here on this board was voted for. Everybody. So people aren't going to agree on things, but one thing about it, the board meetings, it should be very transparent, and a Zoom, whatever it takes, that should be a priority to have a Zoom meeting. That's the new age. This is 2025. That's what they're doing. COVID or not COVID, social media, all of that, that's what's going to be from here on in. So Zoom meetings, however long it takes, October does seem like a long time, but if you want to get it done right, yeah, that's fine. But that is really needed. If you're not going to have 300 people on Zoom. You barely have 20 people at a meeting at any time. So to bring people in to know what's going on, transparency, know what's going on with your neighborhood, with everything, buildings. People want to know, and people can't get out. Mrs. Milling can't get out to come. There's a lot of people like that. People with disabilities, visual, hearing, can't, just disabilities. Zoom is very important.
Thank you.
And that's all I had to say about that. But I do have one thing that's really not pertaining to the Zoom.
No, but
So you want me to wait?
Yes, to
Okay.
public comments, if you would, please.
Okay.
Thank you for understanding that.
But for us to go on so long, pity-patting to me, some things can be resolved and the tension don't need to be there. We need to figure that out.
Thank you. Are there any other comments regarding this agenda item? I should have.
Yes, thank you. My name is Craig Maxfield. I live at 7073 Emberley Way. I've been a resident for about 12 years now in Township. And I just want to say I fully support the transparency that would come from online Zoom or Zoom-esque meetings, whether they're just general board meetings or, as the clerk said a little bit ago, or sorry, not the clerk. I'm sorry, I don't know all the titles.
That's
but
okay. I get it mixed up too.
When you said, would it be all the meetings, would it be everything? I think that'd be great. I think if the more transparency that the government that we live in has, I think that would bring a better experience for the residents, both those that can attend and those that cannot attend. Perhaps those that would like to attend, but time commitments, they can't make the drive here because they're dealing with something else, or there's a million reasons why someone might not be able to come here. And I think putting them on Zoom, even if we did as Trustee Lovejoy said, just a quick, some way to get it started. And then in October, you move to a more professional, proper, whatever the situation is. I think doing it sooner than later, I guess, is my way of saying is doing it sooner than later is probably better. But as long as we're moving towards that, that's ultimately good.
Thank you for your.
I just wanted to.
Welcome to the meeting. Any other public comment?
Yeah, I'm Erica Tabin, 7726 Green Farm Drive in the Township. I agree with everything that has been stated so far on this topic, and I just feel incredibly fortunate that at this stage of my life, I have, the ability to have reliable transportation to get to a meeting. I have usually my evenings free. My son is now in college, so I'm not, on childcare duty in the evenings. My husband can take over making dinner, and even still, I couldn't get here till 6:15 because of my job on a very cold night. But if it was streaming, I would have just stayed on my laptop, toggled over from my work stuff, and stream the meeting. My husband and I love to be involved. Tomorrow night he gets sworn in on the library board. So being involved locally is very, very, very important to us. But sometimes at the end of the day, even with all of everything I just mentioned, it's hard when it's 1 degree out and I still have more work to get done and dinner to prepare to be able to show up physically. And even if I didn't have a public comment to make, I would love to just watch in the moment to see what is happening. And I know that the community we moved from 5 years ago was so much smaller. It was literally a tiny village in upstate New York. And we prompted them in 2017, like, please, it's modern, we need to get things online. And even then, they were able to get things online then. So I feel like rather than saying, we need to have it this way, we need to have it that way, whatever, in seeming like looking at it from a negative point of view, it would, to me, feel better instead of saying like, we can't do it until, to look at it more from like, yes, we're excited to be transparent. Now, how do we do it? And I just don't get that sense across the board from everyone that there's an excitement to figure out how to get it done. More of like I just hope that there's enough obstacles that we never have to figure it out. Thanks.
Thank you. Other
Hi, Monica Ross Williams, 2150 Chevrolet Street. And I guess I have to make sure that I ask that my comments go verbatim on the minutes. So thank you. Really was not expecting this to get on the agenda as quick as it did, but yeah, great. So wanted to kind of clarify some things because I heard after I had commented after the last meeting that it was said that I was a liar in regards to the original discussion. I think it was in 2018 about streaming at meetings. Well, no, I was not a liar. Whoever said that, I think they know who they are and how they said it, I guess on a group chat. That's not right. I actually had that discussion originally with, if I have it correct, Van Buren Township, and particularly their public access person. And I brought that report back to the board. That can also be checked as well with Kevin McNamara, who is the supervisor of Van Buren Township, as well as Trustee Martin, because I originally contacted him in order to get in touch with the public access person. So I just want to make sure that was clear because I don't like being called a liar. Secondly, again, as I said previously, if the board decides that this is something that is something that they can do, I supported it then. I did not have the board support at that point in time because it was cost prohibitive, if I remember it correct. Now, I'm not sure if the costs have changed since that point. Beats me, I'm not on the board now. But either way, I know that was a discussion at that point. Will it make it easier? Sure. In the same aspect, we also did a recording of meetings based on my proposal. That was it. That was what was, I guess you could say, agreed upon because of the fact that the streaming was too expensive at that point. Don't know. I'm assuming that the recording of meetings is still on the website now, and people can listen, and I think they're timestamped, so you can actually timestamp whatever portion of the meeting that you may want to listen to that you can't now. I'm not sure if that information has got out to the public. If it hasn't, it is now because I'm standing here at this meeting. And since I was the one who actually made that original proposal, I think it's really clear. I think it's good to clarify that, is that at least you can hear the audio of meetings right now, at least I think, on the Ypsilanti Township Board of Trustees website. And I think as well, it is timestamped. So thank you for allowing me to clarify that I was never a liar, just like I wasn't a liar when a bullet came through my husband's window. Have a great day.
Thank you. Well, right. Well, we're still discussing it, so since we're still discussing it, Clerk Swanson had a question.
I know that we don't usually respond to public comments, but I wanted to clarify a couple things, that the audio is time-stamped, so that's new. We did seek out how to do that because that had been requested even when I was a trustee, and it was never put in place, so that is in place. Again, in a short time period, and we are not live audio, it's audio after the fact, so I wasn't sure. And then the other point I would clarify is that our board rules allow for a board member to request their comments verbatim. At this point, the rules do not allow for public comment to be, because they're board rules, but always the audio is available that would show the comments that are made by the public.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Peterson.
call for the question.
There has been a request to call the question. We're going to vote on calling the question. All in favor of calling the question?
Yes, aye.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I got in the room. I'm sorry. If we call for the question, that ends all debate
We have to vote on it.
and no discussion. Okay, but I'm going
have
to
to
say
vote
if you're
on
going
it.
to vote on it.
We have to vote on
Did you
it.
vote? But I'm going to say, you do have to vote on it.
Yes,
But it's no discussion.
correct. That's what I was, and that was,
Thank you.
thank you for that.
I just want to say. But I thought he was
Lovejoy
going
Rowe?
to discuss it again.
Yes, close
Newman.
debate.
I would like clarification.
Cannot.
Just voting to end debate.
Yes.
Vote to end debate. That's 2. Peterson?
I'm sorry again. I had a little emergency call. I had to text it back. So you called for the question to vote to do it in October?
We're voting to call the
Oh,
question
yes,
on
for sure. I called
discussion.
for the question. Yes, ma'am.
I just
For
have
sure.
Swanson? Stumba votes yes. Eldridge? And
Yes.
Yes.
So now we have the original motion, which is a recommendation to discuss the streaming of the meeting in October of 2025. That was the original motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. 5-1.
6.
6-1, I'm sorry, 6
6
to
to
1.
1.
All right. We're getting somewhere. And I do think for the comments in the audience, I just want to say though, MTA really said we shouldn't, I have to time public comments. I've never done that, so I have to start doing that. Okay, it wasn't on the agenda, sorry. The next item on the agenda is number 10, budget amendment number 1.
So that we approve the budget amendment, Lovejoy Rowe.
Motion Lovejoy Rowe,
Support.
support Newman. Is there a discussion on the amendment?
Do I have to read it into the record? That's what we've done in the past.
In the past, we have, but she moved it.
Oh, so
We can discuss it.
Okay.
So the budget amendments, just for information purposes, was for Carlisle Wortman for planning support. It was for $21,870. 14B Court is the request to increase the budget for a PTO payout, which is something we bring back to the board. That's $2,252. And the compost site, We authorized purchasing a large piece of equipment. It did not arrive until this year, so we have to carry that forward. So that was for $88,500, just for information purposes. We have a motion support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. There's no authorization of bids. There's no other business. Public comments? Are there any other public comments? If you want to speak on anything that's not on the agenda?
Christina Reeves, I stay on Laurie Street. I don't know who, I'm just bringing it to you. We have a large pothole on the corner of Laurie and Mary Catherine. And who do we contact for that? It needs to be repaired. Field or something.
So we can report that, but also Joanne McCullum is on the actual road commission, and she can help really with that quickly, because I usually send an email to her as well, as the county road commissioner.
Road commission?
Mm-hmm. The pothole in the road, yeah.
Yes, that's on Laurie and Mary Catherine.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Madam Chair, Linda Mealing, 597 Eugene. Another thing that was discussed in a meeting last night, the neighbor, was ordinances. Enforcing ordinances. It seems to be a problem that we have. And we are willing to work with somebody with that, but we would like to see the board stand behind the ordinances that are on the books. To give a few examples, for me, would be one that I think I came to this meeting after calling in ordinance a few times about brush that was down the service drive. And I talked to the person you told me to. Unfortunately, in March will be a whole year, and that brush is still there. Y'all know me, I'm pretty persistent on something, but I gave up. I really gave up, and that concerned me because that's something that people driving down 12 can see, and I don't want that to be something that we're seen as the neighborhood that just lets stuff sit. We know that piles of brush and stuff like that, they collect rodents and stuff, you know. And of course we have the walk path there now too. Another example would be, and I don't have any, I am going to start calling in some more because I know ordinance are phone driven. But when we see ordinance people going down and some things that are very obvious, we think that they should be able to take care of it. They seem to do good with the lawn this year, but there are some other things that have been brought up before that continue, and maybe y'all have some solutions that can help us out, okay? So the other thing, like I have called in a home for blight, and you do take care of it. My concern is a house that their whole backyard can be seen from 12 by people going by, and I need to call it in again. I need to call it in. I don't know if it's because no tickets are being given that residents feel they don't have to comply. If I have to comply, you have to comply, and I do my best to talk to new residents. I'm one that go down and say, hey, I'm new, we have a meeting of residents, or here's some information when trash is picked up and all. And the last one that I want to bring up, is about the trash cans, okay? So a lot of people, I know they're supposed to be on the side of your house, or the back of your house, not in the front. And I like to see what we can do about making those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Belinda, can you give your card? Do you have your card with you? And she can call you directly? Okay. Thank you. Are there any other?
Again, Monica Ross Williams, 2150 Chevrolet. I understand this is not directly in Ypsilanti Township, but in the same aspect, it is in Washtenaw County, and we are going to be paying taxes on it. And that is going to be the new recreation center over off of pretty much, what's that, Cheney? Over off of Stanford Street. I would like the board to consider basically adopting, if possible, a resolution to make sure that that recreation center is named after Johnny C. Cheney. Johnny C. Cheney was the only African-American female to have a school named after her inside of this whole entire county. And the thought that they're going to tear that school down and not keep the name of her on any piece of property here inside of Washtenaw County that is paid for by us as taxpayers, in my opinion, is an abomination. She was a very well-known educator. She used to greet me every, my first and second kindergarten years when I went to Cheney Elementary School and we started the school year. And I don't think this has been thought about, and I will keep it time, and it has been known. So I would love to see the board take up a resolution on that and send that to the county board. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other public?
Hello, Jeremy Haley, Wismer Street. Yeah, I can't stand up here. Just last time it felt like I was going to go down, but yeah, good thing you guys weren't recording visual when I tripped up there the last time. That would have been horrible. People to keep repeating and watching over and over. One thing I didn't hear when you were mentioning that is putting it up on platforms like Rumble, YouTube. So if you can't catch it at the time, you can catch it later. That's what I like to say to that. And yes, you don't have the infrastructure to actually record it right now. You don't have any of the cameras, wires, and all that, so that costs some money and time. But what I was going to say, just on Harris Road past Foley at the bus stop there's a tree at the apartment complexes there. It's got a lot of lower branches, and one of those is like really protruding. Like if you're in the bike lane, you actually have to leave the bike lane and go in the road to get around the bike. And there's several other branches growing out. And this looks like they've been there for 3, 4, 5 years or more. Going back to Ordnance, I don't know how many people from Ordnance drive down the road and see that tree with those massive branches sticking out and go, whatever. You know, that's what I'm saying. Your employees do have to take some self-initiative. If they see something, speak up and say, hey, I saw this and driving down this road, we might want to look at that, boss. Because those branches have been there for some time. And a couple of those branches are holding up a limb that's about the size of my leg or more that fell from the tree that's about to fall in the bike lane and into the road. So I don't know what those apartments are called. And I went to the Western Washtenaw County Affordable Housing Town Hall in Chelsea this last Saturday. And the only thing I heard, and I know you guys are doing the development, I'm trying to keep this really short here and good, is
1 minute.
the people that were there talking about things, all they wanted to do or mention is build this big building 4 or 5 stories tall and put everybody in it and have it run by nonprofits, which takes it off your taxable value. And the construction that you guys are doing, the single family homes, are they 2-story ranch? Because that has to be in consideration, because if you're building out 2-story homes, how many disabled people can live in a 2-story home? Okay? How many families with disabled kids can live in a 2-story home? They have wheelchairs. Pretty much none. So when you're just building all 2-story homes and at a price range not affordable for regular young families, it keeps them out of the market and keeps them in the renting. What I suggest is building a tiny home community. And I heard that Livingston County is building something similar like a cottage community, small type cottages that would be affordable. And you can put on a slab, and they're a lot easier, more affordable for the younger people. Just keep that in mind in your construction, please.
Thank you.
Point.
I might need help in the future with timing. So, thank you for the public comments. Board member comments? Are there any board member? Trustee Lovejoy Rowe?
Thank you, Supervisor Stumbo. I know that those of us who know Mrs. Cheney, thank you so much, Monica, for bringing that up, but I know Doug probably knows her and loves her as much as anybody that I've ever met, and I really think that we should take that, try to do a resolution, maybe get hold of Superior Township and ask them to do the same, maybe Washington County Board of Commissioners, because I know it's a separate group that's seeing it, so I think it's extremely important and much deserved for Mrs. Cheney to be remembered, and and plus she's such a mentor for the kids who's going to go there, and I could just see her picture in there, and her story as young girls and boys come in there to see, like, you can make a difference. And her story is pretty revolutionary. Like, she came up here very educated and had to take a job Doug knows better than me, but took a job as a cleaning or custodian at GM where her husband went, and he had to make a deal that he was only coming because if she could get a job, but she was qualified to be a teacher, but could not be hired as a teacher until finally Willow Run hired her as the very first African-American teacher at Willow Run. But anyways, the story goes on longer, and Doug can do, so I think we should do that resolution. If it's not, I don't think we need a motion, do we? Since we're not supposed to do motions under the comments. Maybe bring it back in the next board. If Doug would do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, and
yes.
Is there any more board?
I'm done, yeah.
I wanted to say as one of the conversations that I had was with Coy Vaughn, who is he is the Director of Parks and Recreation, and they have he informed me that they're moving the rec center to Clark Road in Ypsilanti Township. It's on the same parcel, but one part of it is in Superior and the other part is in Ypsilanti Township. So we're actually setting up a meeting, and I can bring this up. In the very first meeting that we had, I asked very specifically, there were county commissioners there, the YMCA director was there, and the locals. And we requested, and Ypsilanti Community School was there as well, and they were all supportive of naming the building after Ms. Cheney. At that time, they said naming rights, people pay money for that. I'm not sure if that happened with Mary Lou Murray building, but this is going to be totally operated by the county. So I do think it's appropriate to formally request, now that it's not YMCA raising the funds, and it's going to be funded and operated by the Washtenaw County Parks and Recreation, which is the Washtenaw County government. So I think that's good news to know that we've been waiting for a long time to have a rec center in our area. So a lot of debate on where it should be, but this is the site that was selected, and it was always going to be in Superior Township. They now have said that the actual recreation center will be in Ypsilanti Township, so they want to meet with us regarding that. I will ask that request again, and I just wanted to update the board on that one important meeting that I had this week. That's exciting news, actually, so. No other board comments? Motion to adjourn.
One more
Yes.
board comment. I attended the EMU MLK luncheon yesterday, and the keynote speaker was Mary Frances Berry, and it was very enlightening because she shared her experiences of being in the Carter administration and working for Clinton. So it was very enlightening. Enjoyed it.
I apologize for not seeing you. Trustee Newman, any other comment?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion Peterson, support Eldridge, all in favor?
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned at 8:34.
All right, be careful, stay warm out there. County's closed down tomorrow.
lady. I'm good.